Welcome to Only Ghosts in the Building. This is your host, Emily Claire, and I am jumping in here before we start part 2 of Nick Sandin's interview. I guess this is our first correction corner. Is it our first? Because we were going off the cuff and we hadn't done our research on Fort Delaware yet because that's coming soonish. We were just kind of shooting off the hip, and I was talking about the place that had the pee smell. And the lovely Gina from Diamond State Ghost Investigators gave me a little history lesson. First off, shout out Gina. We love you. And she's a big history person, and she wants to get everything right, and I agree. I think that is very important to have things correct. So, the South Casemates, as it is called, from the Civil War era, and one of the locations you would have worn the shoe coverings. Okay, so first off, in this, we didn't talk about it because we haven't gotten to it yet, but there are bats, lots and lots of bats that live in the building, and they have that, I think it's called white nose fungus or something. They have fungus. They are infected and they live there. So when you go into certain places that they live, you have to wear these booties. So you're not tracking the fungus off the island. And then when you leave, you shuffle down these big mats that have a sanitization solution. That's a tongue twister there. So you kind of shuffle that off to make sure that you're not taking that fungus anywhere else, the spores, and infecting other animals or bats. I don't know. Again, I don't know. We'll talk more about it, but that's why we had the booties, is what I'm trying to say. But stay tuned for Fort Delaware Deep Dive, because we will be doing it, because it's such a cool place, and I'll have Gina on to get all the history correct. Anyway, so in that area, they would not have had prisoners in there. That smell in the casemates is literally years of mold, mildew, dampness built up. It does smell very funky in there, but guaranteed that mold and mildew is a catalyst for headaches. She also said it does not mean, though, that someone did not pee in there at one time. There are 2 entrances into the casemates, a north end and a south end, but just one long cavernous area, which I could see, like, we kind of ran into like a wall that had a picnic table against it, and that's kind of where we stopped. But I think if we had gone the other way, it would have taken us all the way out. But we were so discombobulated because it was, pitch black. They don't have any electricity going in there. There's only little lanterns and our flashlights. So we were kind of like, I know that I was overwhelmed and my sense of direction was out of whack. Plus, we were trying to feel all the feelings and also walk with these weird rubber booties. And I picked the wrong size for my feet and they were like falling off and it was just a mess. So they would typically go in on the south end when Nick was doing tours and exit the north end. So they would go through the whole thing when Nick was working there, but he hasn't been there, and they have now since cut it into 2 sections. So Gina and Mo were on the south end and Andy was actually working on the north end. So we were 2 different places. We're talking about 2 different places, and if you want to listen back, it'll explain things better. We would alternate the entrances to meet our groups. So if we went out the north end, we would pick up our next group at the end and reverse the process. So they would go from one end to the other, pick up the next group, and go back. That makes sense to me, but that's not what we did when we were there. That's when Nick was there. Since then, we just go in and out the south end, and we never got to exit the north end. The casemates during that time were a fortified gun emplacement. I think, though, some prisoners were kept in that area during the very beginning in some of the empty powder magazines, but I believe that was in the beginning. She wanted to point out that the Blue Man photo that we discussed, they did not take the photo. The photo was taken by a visitor during the daytime tour. I think back in 2005, which is before they started. And it's an interesting photo And that's why we show it. However, we make sure to tell people that we did not take this picture. It's just an interesting image that people enjoy looking at. They don't have the original. I don't even know if it was a digital camera that it was on or if it was a film camera. We don't have all the history of it. We just know a father and son, not sure if they were part of a school trip or just visiting for the day. Supposedly, the father was standing behind his son when he took that photo and could see the image in the viewfinder. Supposedly, a thunderstorm was not far off when the photo was taken, and that's all hearsay. That I needed to make note of. She knows the fort like the back of her hand and could walk through it pitch dark and know where she is because she is just that good. Unfortunately, there is a lot of new interpreters last year who don't always get the history correct. Through the years, I have heard variations of historical interpretations in some areas of the fort. So probably not a fault of their own, but they're new and maybe getting things confused and haven't been on the job long enough, which is hard. It is hard. I wouldn't remember all this. I'm glad I don't have to be an interpreter because that's a lot of history to have in your brain. I feel for those people trying to remember everything. Also, the building your mom was referring to, that she said it was a long, damp hallway with rooms to one side, that sounds like the Battery Torbert. The Battery Torbert, which is a fun name. Battery Torbert. 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 Maybe I'll name my next cat Torbert. Is post-Civil War 1980s Battery Torbert was a reinforced concrete Endicott 12-inch coastal gun battery. Those are words that I don't understand, and I'm glad she does. No prisoners there either. On the outside of the building is all concrete, where Daryl Marston saw the apparition was on the brick side in the casemates. And then she sent me a picture. So as I remember, this picture is inside of the Battery Torbert post-Civil War in 1890. 1890, not 1980. And that is where we went into one of the rooms and it kind of smelled like pee. That's where it was. So our correction, our long-winded correction, is the pee smell was in the Battery Torbert. When I went back and talked to Mom, she does remember both of us hearing, like she remembers hearing that they had prisoners in there. And I distinctly remember, now I don't know whose mouth those words came out of, but we do know that somebody, because we both remember it, somebody said it to us. Don't know who it was. Cannot tell you. So the casemates is where Daryl saw the half-body man. And she sent a picture of that. And that's exactly what I remember. All right. So that is, I think that's it. That's all the corrections that we have. Yay. Gina told us all the corrections that we needed to know. And so you all will have to stay tuned and wait for deep dive of Fort Delaware. Mom and I are going to go to take a day tour. If anybody wants to come, shout out. Let me know. We'll go. Hopefully we can do a night tour too, another ghost hunt this year. Get your tickets now because they do sell out. Go check out Fort Delaware and look for events coming up. And we will be having our podcast released before October, before spooky season starts. Though it's spooky season for me all the time. Now, without further ado, here is our second half of Nick Sandin from DSGI's interview with Mom and I. Yay, Skinwalker Ranch.
But, so I just went out to the area. I didn't know how close I would be able to get. And I ended up, the first place I went was, if you look at it on Google Maps, you can see there's like a reservoir that's just north of where the actual ranch is. There's like the ranch, and then there's some kind
of Bottle Hollow.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
And I think they actually have an interview in the documentary of somebody who had an experience up there.
Yeah.
So I just drove around up there, and I drove to the far side of the south side of the reservoir, which is where it's closest to the ranch. And this is, I think I was out there. It was in the middle of the night. I think it was like midnight or 1 a.m. or something. So I was assumed that I would be run off by tribal police, which I was not, surprisingly. Um,
Well, apparently they're not allowed to go in Bottle Hollow.
oh, really? Oh, yeah, yeah, that was that. And I don't think I was aware of that at the time. But
They say, no, 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 don't go there. There's bad stuff.
Is that because it's not because of their beliefs?
Yes.
yeah,
And you're talking about Navajo or
I
Ute?
think it's probably Ute because that's Ute land.
yep,
Navajo is off.
Right. Okay.
But the Utes, they're like religious reasons. Like, we don't go there. You can't go there. You're not like. There was somebody that wanted to go there and look. Was it Junior? Junior something or other. I am so bad. I need names like written down. But he was gonna go there, and they were like, "No, you're not allowed. A, you're not one of us, and B, we're not going out
yeah,
there." So you did. Good for you.
yeah. I wasn't. So I was just on the public road. FBI agent in the sky, if you're listening. But I was, yeah. So I literally, I was in a rental car and I was just on following the road. And it goes around the reservoir. So I got down between that point where you're in between the reservoir and the ranch, and I just parked right there on the side of the road and
Yeah.
just got out and I was just like, seeing what I see, not really expecting anything. And I didn't see anything, super dark out there, really cool place for stargazing
Yeah.
and whatever else, because it was no lights, hardly. And I'm standing probably 2-3 minutes standing outside the rental Jeep there, and then I'm just standing there, kind of soaking it in, and I hear footsteps very distinctly, like just somebody in like some kind of boots walking on the road. And I was like, oh shit, here's the police. And then I look and I can, I have the audio cue of where it's coming from, and I look right where it's coming from, and there's nothing. So then I get my phone out, turn the phone light on, and I'm looking, there's nothing there. And I'm still hearing these footsteps coming. That's coming right towards me, and I'm like, what? And I'm just kind of sitting there just experiencing this, and the footsteps come to probably within, again, just by the audio perception of it, within like 2 or 3 feet of me, like right in front of me,
Right.
and then they just stop. And that was the point when I got back in the car and left. I didn't, but no, again, no
Yeah.
other phenomena, nothing visual, nothing. I didn't even really feel that weird. It was a very kind of straightforward perception of the sound alone.
Any smell?
No, nothing. Just felt everything. It felt like an unparanormal event, except for the fact that there was something generating sound that I couldn't see. um,
And that's something that happens on the ranch for sure, multiple times.
yeah, and that was pretty interesting. And then I kind of got back in the vehicle, and I stayed there in the vehicle for a few minutes just to see if anything else would happen or any other sounds. I did not hear the footsteps again anymore.
That's so weird.
Just left there, and that was super weird. And I drove down. I drove as close as I could on the little farm roads by the ranch, and you can actually get pretty close just on public roads. There really wasn't anything down there. I couldn't see anything, and I wasn't going to stop and get out down there because it's all just farm area. Didn't want to get shot by some farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was in my stratification of interesting things. Not something that I couldn't completely eliminate rational explanations, but pretty close. I felt
Yeah.
pretty good about that one.
So the conditions were clear and no wind was blowing that would.
Yeah, that was the probably remarkable thing about the setting was how clear and how still it was,
Mhm.
which you get, being out in the kind of high desert-ish areas. It's kind of a thing that happens is where you can just have that kind of super still feeling where you just really kind of feel where you are, that you're in the middle of nothing. And it was kind of that feeling where it was just so quiet and so still that it was isolated. Like you get that kind of isolated feeling.
Yeah. No bugs, no crickets, no birds, no sounds other than the footsteps.
No, yeah, nothing at all. Which I mean, and that's the only time I've been out there. It was really the only opportunity I've had to go out there. So I don't know if that in and of itself was remarkable. I don't know if there would.
Yeah.
That's you would think about. It's summer, right? It was summer.
What time of year was that, actually? That's a good question. I think it was late summer. It would have been like August, September, I think. So,
You would expect
Okay.
insects to, at least
Yeah.
insects, to be making noise.
yeah, probably would have been. And yeah, being that close to water, yeah,
Mhm.
in retrospect, that probably might have been remarkable in and of itself, the absence of other noise. But again, without being out there, I
Right.
would love to go spend more time out there. But
Same. I think you can rent that farm that's next to it.
yeah, I did see. I was looking on. I live in Google Maps. That's how I feel like half my memory is just by like trying to go follow roads along and try to remember where I was. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was looking around there on Google Maps and I saw, oh, they got there's like a thing you can rent, which that would be cool.
Yeah.
That wasn't. I don't think that was a thing back when I was there, but
Have you seen any of the stuff with Jack Osborne going out there?
no, I heard briefly about that, but
So cool.
really,
Yeah, no, I Jack Osborne, hands down, he's really come into his own as a paranormal investigator.
huh?
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
it's really neat.
Yeah, I'll have to check some of that stuff out.
Yeah. They went to that other place because they couldn't get on the ranch.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. It's a big wide open area, but all the farms and all the places that you can get to are pretty close together when you're actually out there. It's not as spread out as you would picture in your brain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or at least as I pictured it. But yeah, and it's kind of interesting talking about all the Skinwalker stuff because, they call it Skinwalker Ranch, and I've always kind of had a problem with the classification of those kind of
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
in with the Skinwalker legend, because in my mind, that's a completely,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I mean, maybe they are related, but,
We were just talking about this.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I wonder if it originated because the original owners, and I don't remember their name, had seen that wild wolf
Yeah, that's the closest thing that happened there that I would think would.
that they petted, and they thought, because skinwalkers are, from a Native American standpoint, they would actually put on the skin
Mhm.
of the animal
Yep.
that they relate to. Everyone has
Like a spirit animal?
so it's their spirit animal that they use, the skins. And
Yep.
when
Yeah.
you think about it, that kind of makes sense. If the first thing they find was something that they thought may have been somebody that had shapeshifted
Yeah.
Yep.
into their spirit animal from wearing their skins. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is a misnomer to call it that now, because
Yeah.
there's so much more than that. It kind of limits it to Native American experiences.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
that's only one slight aspect of that whole area.
Yep.
It's like the one little thing that got that name because of the dogs. And they actually go into that. There was they brought llamas on the show, and one got really brutally attacked.
Oh, really?
Living
Wow.
Yeah, like ripped up, and they have
Oh, geez.
video of it, but it was blocked out weird, like by the way that the security camera was, so they can't really see what like attacked the llama. It was alive, but
Why'd they do that to a poor little llama? Really?
no.
Yeah.
So, there are things that keep happening, but that's not the big piece to it. That's not the overall thought of the ranch.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a like a
Yeah.
portal.
Seems to be, which for me, I've for a long time been super intrigued by the traditional legend of the Skinwalker, which it's again, we talk about the traditional legend of the Skinwalker, which is kind of a misnomer because
Hmm.
the people who are really knowledgeable about these things don't talk about them at all.
No,
Um,
no.
and
As a matter of fact, they're supposed to never talk about them,
yep,
especially within the Navajo
yep.
Nation.
So you kind of have to triangulate what is really even the legend. But I did have a really interesting experience. The only real like super strange experience I had when I was truck driving, and I think it's kind of congruent with some of the other
Hmm.
quote unquote skinwalker type experiences. I was in truck stop just east of Gallup, New Mexico, which is right there on the Arizona border. Um, had parked for the evening, and if you pull it up on again Google Maps and you
Google Maps.
look at this truck stop, it's a very kind of desolate area, remote, and lots kind of pretty open. There's not a lot. There's no obstructions in there, which will become important in a moment. So, anyways, I was just laying in my truck. I was playing video games or something, like I did in the evenings typically. And I was laying back in the sleeper. So, in the truck that I had at the time, the sleeper, there was a window on the one side where my head was closest to. I was laying back, hear this noise, and it was a noise I knew because it's the same noise like when you drive under some branches that are a little too low and they drag across the top of your truck. It's a very distinct noise.
Hmm.
Right.
I was like, huh, that's weird.
It's kind of a screechy noise,
Yeah, it's
scritchy
just
noise.
something just dragging along the top of the cab of the truck. So at first I didn't really think anything of it. Then it happened the second time immediately after, and I was like, huh. The first time I just kind of leaned back and look out the window in the truck, and it's dark. I can't see anything. So I get up, get out, I look up, nothing. And my truck's, I'm, it's a pretty open truck stop, which is rare, but I don't think there was any trucks on either side of me. There's nothing on either side of me. There's no trees, importantly. Um, Nothing there, really. I'm like, what the heck? First, I'm thinking like a bird maybe landed on top of the truck. So I just get back in and lay back down, playing video games. Probably 20 minutes later, I hear the same sound, but like really aggressively, like I'm like worried that something's scratching the top of my truck somehow. So I jump out. Look, there's nothing around. I'm like, what in the world is this? And so I'm keyed up on it, and I get back in the truck. I turn all the lights off in the sleeper, and I'm just laying there looking up this window and letting my eyes adjust in the dark and hoping that if this happens again, I can see what's up there. Because if it's happening where it sounds like it's happening, I should be able to see it by just kind of like cocking my head back and looking straight up out this window. The sound happens again, this time really aggressively, and the whole truck is kind of like shaking with it. And it's probably 15 minutes or so since the last time it happened. And I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, and I'm weirded out by it at this point because I can't see anything. I'm looking directly at where the sound is coming from. Can't see anything. I pop out again, nothing. What the heck? And so I move. I move the truck to the other side of which I usually, try to get a spot on your own so it's as quiet as possible and so nobody runs into you. And I just moved kind of over by where most of the other people are parked on the far side of the truck stop. Didn't happen again. And then I get out in the morning and I'm doing my walk around before I get going for the day, and there are scratch marks on the top of this truck. 3 just deep scratches in the paint. It was just in the paint, it didn't go any deeper than that, but they're probably maybe an inch and a half or so apart from each other. 3 scratches right, probably extending for about a foot on the top of the sleeper of the truck.
So right over your head.
Yeah,
Wow.
right where I was looking. Yeah, I have no idea still. I mean, gosh, the only thing I could think is some kind of like vulture or something landed up there and was just going to town. And
I don't know that they fly at night, though.
yeah, it would have been.
They roost at night.
Yeah, so I have no idea. And again, I kind of in my head, that's the skinwalker thing is the thing that it latches onto. But who knows?
Well, I'm looking at Google Maps, and
Hmm.
Gallup is in between Albuquerque and the Petrified Forest, but
Yep.
at the lower end of the Navajo Nation.
Yeah, and it's right
So
there. Um,
it is right there.
which and it's kind of funny. The company I work for now, uh, like I said, we do aeromedical, air ambulance flying, and a lot of it is in that area. So now I know that we have couple aircraft based out of Gallup, and that's what they serve the reservations exclusively. So now
Mhm.
I'm aware that it's right in the middle of
Yeah, right
a
there.
lot of that. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know, and it's a that area, especially I used to drive when I was driving for the company out of Salt Lake City. Had a few opportunities where I drove, which, and if you're looking at Google Maps, you can see like US 491 and stuff, or 191, which are super remote highways. They're not interstate highways; they're the old
The old
U.S.
one.
highways
Hmm.
that go through the reservations out there, and it's a very unique vibe that you get driving through those places.
So we actually drove cross country, my husband and I, several years ago, and we actually went on that route
Oh,
because we
neat.
we went to Albuquerque for a few days, and then drove through to the Grand Canyon, Sedona, but we stopped at Petrified Forest.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So we were. I mean, it is pretty remote. It's there's not a whole lot of there's a whole lot of nothing, as my husband used to say. We saw a whole lot of nothing.
It's a good thing Ernie didn't know anything about this. He'd be like, "Nope, we're going home."
He wouldn't believe it anyway, because Anyway,
But yeah, it's an interesting area, and
it
again,
is.
I would love to spend more time out there now that I'm even more familiar with all those kind of legends. But
Yeah, and the Four Corners area is supposed to be another area that kind of is the Skinwalker legends, because it's the four states coming together.
yep,
And that seems to be an area where people experience things at Four Corners. I've been to Four Corners.
Deshay Canyon.
Deshay Canyon is in Arizona, and that's in what, northeast Arizona?
yeah,
Didn't we go there?
Yeah, we did go to, and that is also Navajo country. Chinle is there, and that was also
hmm
Navajo country. And we drove through that whole thing up to Monument Valley and around that.
Wasn't I like a preteen,
Yeah,
like 13, 14?
you rode horses.
Yeah.
Remember, Bill took you and Abby on a horse trip down into Canyon de
Yeah. Oh,
Chelly.
and I hear that there's a lot of activity, paranormal stuff there. And the petroglyphs,
It's an interesting area.
I vaguely
Mm.
remember horseback riding, but
We actually walked down. Do you remember? You didn't walk down, which we could only do because Bill was with us. So Bill, your cousin Bill, and his wife were doctors in Chinle,
oh wow,
and they so they had lived there. So because they were residents, they could take us where you normally wouldn't be allowed to go without a guide.
oh neat.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
that's a shame I don't remember it.
I think we probably have pictures somewhere.
Probably.
I mentioned earlier about like the stone tape and all that, and about like kind of agitating things, like building things, and how that I've always kind of felt that way, that when you can, is a certain, I feel like it's like a actual tape. It gets worn out if you play it too much. So I kind of feel like a lot of times, like Fort Delaware, because we do the tours and stuff, it becomes less and less active over time, I think, because we're just, so much of that energy is being extracted. As I don't, I again have no idea, I have no basis in any fact for this, but it's just kind of
Yeah, that's an interesting theory.
conjecture. But I feel like whenever we're able to get into new places, or if you get into a place where only you have access or have unique access, um, that it's a lot, I wouldn't say easier, but maybe more common to have experiences because you are there, you're getting it fresh.
Yeah.
We've had that a few times. I think Gina in their interview talked about like the Painter Building at Fort DuPont,
Right.
and I think we were
Mhm.
one of the first, if not the first group to go in there and investigate, and it was insane. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that we were the first ones to really be in there doing that and trying to have those experiences. So yeah, being able to go to some of those places, especially out in the desert, for the first time would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some interesting stuff in Colorado that I haven't yet talked about on the podcast. But I was living, it was the most expensive vacation ever because we tried to move out there and it didn't really work. So we had to come back home. But I was in Colorado Springs and my friend came out, and I had another friend that lived there in Denver. So we all went up to the Stanley Hotel.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So the three of us are there and we're all witchy in our own way. We all have, some stuff going on. And I just, I made the intention. I was like, okay, I'm going to this famously haunted place. I'm going to open up. I'm open to everything that is, I always you have to specify anything that's for your highest benefit or neutral, because I don't want negative stuff. But so I was like wide open basically, and we had some stuff happen there. And then I come home and Heather had told Amber, because she's only visiting, she's like, I want to see the sky, I want to see all the stars. We don't get that in Delaware. So Heather said, you go off on this one exit and the two mesas, the buttes, I don't know, the two structures cancel out the Denver lights and the Colorado Springs lights, so you can get out and you can see everything.
Oh, neat.
So we're going down and there's two exits. So we hit the first exit, and Amber and I was still feeling a lot of feelings, and it was really late at night. Amber and I get off and we kind of pull around and park on the side of the road. And I was like, I'm not getting out. I'm scared. Something is scaring me. Like, I'm not getting outside. And she kind of got out. And I was like, to me, in my head, I could feel, it felt like there were just like little short people that were invisible. And they were just rushing our car and surrounding our car. Now, I did not hear anything. I did not see anything. It just felt horrible, like off. I did not like it, but it felt low to the ground. Like it wasn't, up above. And she was in a Dodge Durango, so we were pretty high up. And I was like, I'm safe in this car, but I'm not getting out. And I was like, I don't think we should stay. Get back in the car. Let's go. And so we get back on and going south. And then we actually saw the next exit that we should have been on. We should have gotten off at that second one and not the first one. And we got out. We pulled out and no problems. There wasn't anything scary, nothing creepy. It was fine. We saw the stars. It was awesome. But I went home and that lingered with us because she was feeling off too. And she's like, I don't know if I'm feeling off because of you or I'm feeling it too. But so we looked up a bunch of Native American things because we knew that there was a lot of problems in that land. And when the settlers, the white men come out, there were like the Utes. I think some of them joined teams with them in fighting the other tribe that was out there that I can't remember because I don't think it's the Navajo. But there was a lot of conflict, and there was like, they call it the Indian Massacre of 18 blah blah blah. So I kind of got into this deep level and I was like, I wonder what that was. I don't know. And then come to find out, do you know about the goblins that we're going off? So the Newkirks, Greg and Dana Newkirk.
Oh, yeah.
Hellier,
Yep.
that show.
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with that. Yep.
So that's all around the same time. That happened before all of that came out. And I was like, oh, goblins. And that's where Carl and Connor, that's where they used to be the investigators as the Stanley Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like,
yep.
Did I just like tap into all of their energy? Like, what the heck happened? But it made me feel completely bonkers when I saw it, because I was like, it was like little short things that were kind of like surrounding us, and that's what's happening in Kentucky. And like
Yeah.
there's mountains there. There's probably a bunch of caverns around. I'm getting chills just talking about it, but that's what they're saying down there is the all the caverns in there, and the goblins are possibly you aliens or whatever it was. I sound unhinged right now, but I promise.
No, it happened. I mean, and that's like the goblins and the small beings thing is a thing that is not uncommon now. Now that again, another thing that's kind of being destigmatized.
Yeah.
I had an experience, and I didn't think we were going to go this far into the depth of my knowledge on this podcast, but this is going back to, gosh, I think I was probably 12. Me and my best friend Cody, every summer me and his family would go camping down in Big Sur, California. Not sure, yeah, if you're familiar with that area, but tons of legend and crazy stuff supposed to happen down there.
Yeah.
Very spiritually connected area, as it were.
All the hippies used to go to Big Sur
Exactly.
back in my day.
Yeah, but regard, and just
still do.
yeah, beautiful area. Regardless, but anyways, and that's another place that just has a very
Regardless that because it's full of hippies now or what?
It's no, I mean, and I think that the culture there kind of adds to it in its own way. But it's a place that you go, you can just wake up and you know where you are because it feels different. But yeah, so we would go camping for a week, usually down there during the summer when I was little. And there was this one year we were down there, and we kept having, obviously, tons of wildlife, cool stuff. You'd have animals come walking through your camp in the middle of the night, and we're just tent camping, so pretty in touch with all of that. But this one year, we had this really weird thing kept happening where we would hear something come walk right up to our tent, and then just kind of hear it like stepping around our tent. But we couldn't see it. Usually, from the lights of the camps off in the distance or coming from the camp store or whatever, you'd see the shadow or you'd be able to tell what was outside your tent, more or less, a raccoon, deer, whatever, but we couldn't see anything like with whatever was around our tent. So maybe it's a tiny little thing, whatever, open the tent and look around, couldn't really see anything. But it was weird enough that the last night we were there, we decided we were going to do an experiment. And with our tent, there's a couple of family tents around and stuff, but with our tent we laid out tinfoil all the way around our tent.
Smart.
Just to see if we could see what was doing it. And sure enough, we heard steps on the tinfoil. Cool, we'll be able to identify what kind of animal this is. And we get out next morning on this tinfoil, and there are these prints that are very distinctly like baby human prints, footprints. And we're like, okay, well, there's got to be an animal that's just like this. And we're looking. The raccoons are kind of close.
You would see their claws.
Yeah, and couldn't be anything but a baby human print. And gosh, I wish we had, we were young, and I wish somebody had the presence of mind to photograph this. But apparently I haven't been able to find any photos. Cody still, he remembers it.
Yeah.
And his stepdad remembers it. But yeah, that was a truly bizarre thing. But it ties right in with, I think, it had the same kind of thing, like we were just being surrounded by these little things, like kind of like what you were talking about. So I don't know if it's a similar kind of thing, but yeah.
Now, could you see like all their toes? Like, was there 5 toes?
Yeah,
like,
it was.
Did it look like?
It looked just like on a,
like a toddler.
Yeah, it was just perfectly little. If you wouldn't had the context, you would have thought, oh, a little kid walked across this.
Yeah.
But
now, did you ever go back there?
oh yeah, I love it. I've never. The stuff like that never really deters me from a place. If anything, it made it more attractive. Even back
Oh, yeah.
then, I would have thought I would have been scared of it at that time, but I guess I wasn't enough to
Yeah.
really. I think it was more
That
intriguing.
brings me to my next question. Do you think because you're open, you have more experiences than people that aren't?
Good
I
question.
And it's just not the awareness part of it, but do you attract more?
I think the reason, yeah, I think the reason for me, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. Oh, what separates me from somebody who hasn't had those kind of things happen so many times in their life. And I think that one of the gifts that I have is, and I don't know if I'm more in touch spiritually, but I am very, whenever anything, like regardless of setting, when something happens around me in life, I'm very good at perceiving things exactly as they are without
Yeah.
layering on the biases. I can perceive very clearly,
Mm-hmm.
which is, like when I was a mechanic on the floor, it was very good for troubleshooting because a lot of people think you have a tendency to group things with things that are the usual things that happen, and it's very valuable to be able to just isolate and look at things as they are. And I was always,
So you're analytical.
I would say in a way, yeah, analytical and just good at not biasing things as they occur. Obviously, you layer on the knowledge that you have when you analyze things and kind of compare them to other things, but in the moment, being able to just perceive things
Yeah.
exactly as they are, I think, is something that lends itself well to
Mm-hmm.
examining things that are unknown. Because I think a lot of people, you have that desire to know,
Well,
like we were talking about, to
your brain likes to shortcut. So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yep. And to be able to not do that as automatically, I think, is a
Mm-hmm.
very good thing to be in the investigating the unknown. So I would say that's probably the key differentiator between myself. And I think, and I don't know, maybe that's what being psychically aware is just that, you
Or
know.
intuitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or maybe there's another level to it that's different. I don't know. Haven't really dove deep enough on that side of things to understand what that would look like. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it's perceiving, and that's what I always try to tell new people now, especially, and because I think when I was really in my equipment phase, that kind of clouds a lot of that because you're so busy looking at all these
Yes.
things that the most important thing, the best tool for experiencing and capturing these things is
Is
yourself.
yourself. Yes. I
And to
always say
just
that.
be in the moment. And I think that's like just a good
Mm-hmm.
life advice in general, is just living in the moment and being in the moment, especially when you're in a special place, regardless whether you're investigating or not, is just important. Just soak it in. So I try to tell the new people.
Now, that being said, what's your favorite piece of equipment?
I would say, if excluding the human being as we are, a tool, in and of ourselves, I would say my favorite is probably just a camera. Even though I've never caught anything visual, I think if we were ever in our lifetimes going to be able to give conclusive proof of something abnormal, I think it's going to come in the form of visual, because that's something that we can all identify with, as being real, or we could up until AI happened. Um,
Well,
Well,
yes.
yeah, but we can still tell a lot of AI.
for now.
There's a lot of yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they have extra fingers and they don't know what to do with
yeah.
yeah, like hands and feet.
I am a huge fan, and airplanes, race cars, and cameras are my three passions in life. And cameras being really the thing that I get to play with the most. At one point, was very big into film photography. I did like large format and all that kind of stuff. And I am a very big proponent of using those kind of analog mediums to capture evidence, because that's the one thing that you can drill down. You can look at a negative, under a microscope and examine it and see if it's been altered. I think that using those kind of things in investigations is important, because it
Yes.
gives you that
Yeah.
layer of possible analysis to do in the future you really can't do with digital because, I mean, you can forensic digital stuff a little bit, but it becomes harder and harder as time goes on. So film is timeless.
Yeah. The most recent thing that we did was Samuel Miller Mansion, and they just came out with a
Hmm.
photo that it was taken before the My Haunted Manor got there, and they actually in the latest episode on YouTube
Hmm.
had the live. It's a live photo, so you can see all the things around the one clip of that entity that they caught, and it looks like a smaller boy,
Oh, okay.
so that you can see all that
Hmm.
data. And then and you can also see underneath. So like if you're taking on your iPhone, always use your live
Yeah, that's good.
mode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And and there are good, there are some safeguards and that you can get with digital to verify that, you know, and also now, they have the Instax instant cameras now that are relatively inexpensive. That's a
Yeah.
really good tool. And I think there's also something to like being able to capture different things on different mediums. There's maybe things that we can capture on digital that we can't with film and vice versa.
Right.
So I think having a diverse group of equipment in that realm in an investigation can help capture things that you might not be able
Yeah.
to otherwise. So
But don't get lost in it, or else you
exactly,
won't
yeah,
experience the actual experience.
for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
and to be able to analyze, whatever evidence you have, to be able to analyze it properly, you have to be able to correlate that with what happened at the time. Having it on an island is kind of meaningless when you don't really understand what actually happened. you know.
Right. Yeah. I think I keep thinking at some point is like everybody's going to understand that there are entities and this stuff happens. It's like near death experiences. People know that they have them. I mean, it's very common now and recorded and investigated and everything. So when does it get to be sort of like, okay, well, not a big deal anymore? You
Yeah,
know,
for sure. Yeah.
sort of this is life and this is can happen anywhere, anytime, any place to anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, are we gonna get jaded?
Yeah, I mean, it's like every place you go, there's an entity. And it may be that you are the person that's attracting the entity. If you're seeing it a lot, and we have one person that we've talked to that she's lived 3 different places, 4 different places maybe, where she's had, the house she grew up in, and then a couple other houses where there's been entities there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, she's just able to see them and draw them maybe out where because of who she is.
Yeah.
It's not the same entity following her, they're different entities, but the fact that she seems to be either attracted to homes that have them or or they're attracted to her when she shows up. They say hi, here we're here, and and she has more experiences than maybe I would have. I wouldn't recognize, or they wouldn't be attracted to me because I am not the same type of person she is. There's something about her that I don't have. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, there's definitely, I think there's something to that. And who knows what exactly that is that makes somebody, whether that's being open to it or it actually is just something that's there with you. I had one instance where I thought maybe I, quote unquote, brought something home.
Hmm.
Where when we were living in Delaware, it was right after one of the weekends of the tours.
At Fort Delaware.
Yep, yeah, at Fort
Yeah.
Delaware. Yep, sorry. And I was at the time, my girlfriend, we were living together, and I would get home from work before she did typically. I was just sitting on the couch one day after work, and again, I think this was a weekend between the Fort Delaware tours. I was sitting on the couch and watching TV, and I had the kitchen lights on, which was behind where the couch was, and I saw the shadow of something walk behind me, like it's cast a shadow in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I just at the time I processed that as my girlfriend walking behind me, and then I shortly realized that she wasn't home yet,
Yeah.
and I was alone.
You're like, oh,
Um,
wait.
yep, and I was, but the perception I got of the thing that was walking behind me is that it had a hat on, like those kepi hats that the Civil War soldiers had. Which when I kind of
Mhm.
replayed it in my brain, and I saw that having like the brim of a short little brim of a hat like that, and I was like, huh, is this something that's like, is it in this place? Because we were living in Old Newcastle at the time, and it was a relatively new apartment building,
Mhm.
but again, you never know what's just there.
Yeah.
Um, or but that was the only time in that apartment. We were there for like 2.5 years that I really remember anything weird happening. So I don't know, but yeah, I think there is definitely there. I've met people as well that just everywhere they go, they have the same kind of things happen around them. So I definitely think there is something to that. Who knows what it
Yeah.
is?
Well, it's all a mystery, which is
Yeah.
why we're here, because
Yeah.
it's a
And I
mystery.
love the mystery. Like you were saying about whether we'll solve it in, I hope we don't solve it in my lifetime because to me, the having the question is part of the joy of life, and just being able to experience these things that we can't quite put our finger on is something that I cherish. So, as much as I want the answer, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Oddly enough,
Right.
yeah,
Like we don't want to just like not know or we know everything
yeah.
and like what fun is that?
I'll take the UFO answer in my lifetime. I think we'll probably get that.
I definitely wanted to. You think we will find out?
I think we'll have a much clearer vision of that in the next 10 years, honestly, if not much sooner.
Mhm.
Yeah, and to me, like who cares what the government says?
Yeah.
Like we've seen stuff. There's shows about it and that like the drones
Hmm.
on the Skinwalker Ranch. Like they brought out like 20 people. Like that would have to be so many people keeping lies.
Yeah.
That's not possible. There's no way you can't keep a secret like that for that long. That's just not possible.
Yeah.
And I think on like we'll go back to that. Like I think they just don't know, so they can't tell us.
Well, you would if you're being threatened to be
Well,
sued,
yeah, I
or
Sure.
mean that's
worse
why
if you
that's
tell.
why
So
Travis.
yeah, there are people that hold secrets all the time. That
I think that would for this. I think that would be a
Yeah.
lot of secrecy, and I think a lot of people would know or see through it.
Not to get into too much of a UFO tangent, but there was a really interesting thing that happened just a couple months ago, close to here, up in Winnipeg, in Canada. Um, and I learned about it from an aviation channel that I follow on YouTube, but nothing paranormal. They usually don't cover anything paranormal, which is why it was interesting to me. It was a ATC recording over the period of, I think it was like 2 or 3 hours, where there was just aircraft after aircraft going east to west across Canada that we're seeing triangular formations moving around over like north of Winnipeg, and just on frequency, just everybody talking about it and calling it something unidentified openly, and the center controller talking to them, recording it, and it's like that to have that kind of an open discourse about it, and with pilots who are usually kind of in the past have been so reserved about that is, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, there's
Yeah,
definitely, it's close to being a thing. I feel like,
yeah,
right?
which is good.
yeah.
I feel like,
It's just the matter of who is piloting these
yep.
things. Like, are we going back and, we have the Greys and the Nordics and all that. That's my
Yeah.
conspiracy. I love that. Like, that
Oh
the
yeah.
government was like, oh, yeah, you can abduct this many
Yeah,
people.
the Valiant Thor
Yes.
visit with Ike and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
But yeah, in reality, like who knows what all that actually is? Yeah, but
And they
I
may
mean,
be here. It's just like us. We can't see them.
yeah, yeah,
They may be at a different vibration level that
Yeah.
we just don't know that they're here because we
Like
just
that,
don't.
oh, that movie with the
Yeah.
super, no, what was that little kid with the laser eyes, and that he was going home, and it's basically like a light, um like a Like they had buildings and stuff, and they were light beings, and they were
Oh
basically
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. It was a
on
whole
top
different
of
city
ours. Yeah,
that was there that we
that
couldn't
we
see.
couldn't see it because it
It
was in
was
a light frequency that we
Yeah.
can't see
Yep.
because we're piddly little meat
It-
sacks of humans.
that's where I want. I want to go. I want to
yeah.
go there. I want to live
Yeah.
in that kind
Right.
of
She
place.
wants to live in the light.
I don't care about going out into outer space. I really want to live in a futuristic
Alternate dimension.
place that just yeah, that's like nice. That
Right.
isn't
Yeah.
that people take care of everything and they care about everybody instead of our struggles on the
Yeah, right?
third dimension.
Yeah. I know that would be nice.
Yeah. I feel like there's a bunch of us trying to get there, and we're just kind of, okay, we're not dealing with these people anymore. You can live with your
Yeah.
own fighting, and I don't care. We're
Yeah,
gonna,
that would be like, okay, they can be doing their thing and we'll just go off and do ours. And
Well, and that always seems to be the thing that seems to have invoked the UFO spike in activity is the advent of nuclear weapons seems to be
yes.
heavily correlated.
Mhm.
And
and I
the
find it fascinating that there's so many radiation symptoms. Like with the
yeah,
Mothman, they got conjunctivitis. People were getting radiation poisoning, and like all
yeah,
this stuff. It seems to
Black
have,
eyed children.
yeah,
They had
yeah,
people that had the
yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. The
red.
actinic conjunctivitis. Yeah, with the yeah. That's yeah, it's super. Man, we are way out of ghost territory. I love it. I
Yay!
love it. This is because I
But
think that
that's what we are
High
because
yeah.
we're looking at this
strangeness.
other stuff too.
Well, and I
So,
think it's important to look at it holistically because I
mhm.
don't. None
Yes.
of this lives on an island.
No.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
It's. I
Although
think
we
it
want
is.
to, but we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, we'll live with goblins and Bigfoot and
Yeah.
ghosts and aliens on an island. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm gonna have to. I'll maybe come back on at some point and talk because I'm
You
where
want
I am
more?
right now.
Wait, there's
Well,
more?
well, there's because and I haven't. This is something I really haven't had a chance to dig into too much. But I'm living where I'm living is Grand Forks, North Dakota. If you look at it on the map, it's basically.
North Dakota.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in the even more remote part. Um, um, but yeah, so Grand Forks, and it's right on the border with Minnesota. Minnesota has a ton of interesting legend and lore and like Sasquatch type stuff in the native reservations out here, like Red Lake Reservation, stuff like that I've driven through. I haven't really had a chance to explore much, but
Oh gosh, you're north of Fargo.
yep, I'm way up there. Yeah, I'm close. The closest like big city to me is in Canada, is Winnipeg. So
Yeah, the Winnipeg
Yeah,
peg I see is right north of you.
yep.
So
that's neat.
Yeah, but yeah, so the Sasquatch stuff is a whole other, which again I think still kind of interrelated with all these things.
It's all
But
connected. It really
yeah,
is.
I seems to be. But I would love to get out and explore some of these areas. My girlfriend has a friend who has had experiences, and I'm hoping to link up with him and maybe go explore out some of those areas because he's of native heritage, and um, so yeah, maybe if I have a chance to go, yeah, have a chance to go do some squatching, and then I'll get back with you.
Yeah. Yes, please.
yeah, so you're near White Earth Reservation.
Yeah, there's a ton. There's like yeah, White Earth I think is further south
There's
maybe.
Red Lake,
Yeah, Red Lake is the
Big
big one.
Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure like if you guys are affiliated with any other podcasts or whatnot, but if you ever listen to like Monsters Among Us, which is has just like a call-in show, and I think Jim Harold and stuff,
Yeah.
which I don't know if I know I've heard some on Monsters Among Us. I'm not sure on Jim Harold, but there's tons of stories from that area about Sasquatch, of course, but then all just kind of manner of weird stuff in those Minnesota wilds. So, a lot to be explored.
I might have had a Sasquatch experience, but not. It's an interdimensional more type of thing because
Yeah,
I only saw an arm, and it was weird. It looked like a Sasquatch arm going between these two trees, but
Huh.
then nothing else. It was just me,
Yeah.
and it was just like the arm swinging, And then we kept hearing this bird following us, and it was like this whistle and a whistle, and it kept following us out of the woods. This was in the Poconos,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
it just kept going with us. And I was like, "What is this bird?" Because I know bird calls. I know birds, and this was not a bird I knew. And then I was watching Hellier, and then there was like when they were in the woods or in that one episode, they were on the porch and out in the wilderness, like the woods right there. There was like noises, and he like did this whistle. Greg did a whistle, and I was like, "That's the bird!" Like
Interesting.
he just whistled the bird.
Yeah.
Like what is going on? Yeah. That's the stuff that makes me feel Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
Again,
but it's
watch
so many
that.
people have these experiences and throughout time that it's
Yeah.
which
When
in
I saw the UAP, I'm sorry, I saw the UAP of the little light
yeah.
on the Skinwalker, and like I immediately texted Gina, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is what I saw,"
Yeah.
and she's like, "Ha ha ha!"
Well, and
Like,
it's interesting because and cryptids were again we kind of I think we all are at one point where we thought of these things in their own silos, but now are kind of melding together. But for a long time, I kind of dismissed it. But then I kind of the key thing for me in understanding like how much we could not know about what's in our forests is when I
yeah,
first started flying lessons, and when I
you see it.
was got my private pilot's license, and I was building up hours to get my commercial, and I was flying down at Florida. Flew a lot of times over the Everglades, and flying out there, you go out and you can be at certain points over the Everglades where you just up there and you look around all around, and you just see until it disappears in the horizon, just nothing but trees, and it just all looks the same, and it's just
Yeah.
huge expanse, and you just become aware of how much could be out there. And
Well, whatever's out there got eaten by snakes now.
yeah.
Those big,
Oh yeah, and the Everglades are a rough place to.
yeah.
That's yeah,
Is this,
being up there in
what is it, the anacondas or no, whatever.
the
Pisces.
the thing that scares me the most about the Everglades are the bacteria that live in the
Ew.
water.
yeah.
That'll probably get you before any the bigger
Well,
things have a
I
chance
don't know.
to. But
And amoebas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But yeah, there's just so much room in this earth, even with how many people we have on it now, for
Yeah.
things that we just never would have a chance to see. That I think it's even if they were biologic entities.
Well, but even under the earth, I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
caves. If you look at some states, it's all caves
Hmm.
underneath, like Arkansas and
Yeah. It's
Nebraska.
the Mammoth
And
Cave system is huge.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the biggest cave system around.
Hmm.
It's enormous, but also the Rockies have a cave system too. So it's all it's all connected.
Yep. Yeah. And, it sounds hokey to say, but I think it is. At some level, it has to be. We're all existing in the same
Yeah.
plane of perception. So,
bump into each other once in a while, right?
yep. But yeah, that's super interesting. That half arm of a Sasquatch. That kind of invokes for me that memory of what me and Andy saw in the Florida, where it's just like a little blip of something that,
Yes.
whether it's a different plane of
Yeah.
time or of whatever.
Right. And again, I was there. I was with Amber and Heather, who were also the two that were with me in Colorado when
Oh,
we
huh.
had that experience. And they had Heather brought out her little cousins, and I think they were like 17, 16, and they were, sheltered. I was like, here's the magical world of everything. Let me show you. And I was like, I like set the intention,
Mhm.
seeing something interesting,
Mhm.
bringing up the magic that is the natural world, us being out there. And
Yeah.
I saw something, and they all heard it, like they knew, but it was weird. It was weird.
Yeah, that's That's just all these experiences. At some point, I think you're right. At some point, we'll be able to correlate it and understand it, but I
Hmm.
think that's,
Maybe not.
yeah, or
So
maybe not. Yeah, maybe
not
there
within
were.
our lifetime, anyway.
Yeah.
It just brings up more questions.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're running on 2 hours now,
No.
so I can't believe it's that long. But we really like to have you back again and talk about your other
Absolutely.
experiences. When you're ready, just let us know
Cool.
because
Yeah.
we're here for you.
Awesome. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
And anybody else that wants to chime in with their experiences, if they hear something and have a story that relates, we'd love to hear it. So,
Yeah.
Super.
yep.
Well, it was great being on. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. It
Yeah.
was very interesting.
I feel like DSGI really kind of solidified a good group of weirdos. And I
Oh,
use that in the best way possible.
oh, I love it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I'm a 1000% a weirdo. But
Same.
no, it is a phenomenal group, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've only talked to like a tiny slice of the
Yeah.
crazy pie that we have. So
Yeah.
there's more.
We're digging in. We're digging in some more on the 27th.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah. So
excited to hear
we'll
what
get some
Debbie
more
has to
going.
say. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Okay.
Well,
Well, thanks
thank you
very
so
much.
Thank you.
much.
We will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have a story you'd like to tell us, please email us at onlyghostsinthebuilding@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at Only Ghosts in the Building or Facebook at Only Ghosts in the Building. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/Only Ghosts in the Building, and you can come join for free, or we have a $1 a month tier or a $5 a month tier. Come check us out. We have a lot of good content there. I really enjoy the app and all its capabilities. You can listen, you can watch, and you can read and check out all our content right on there. We have merch for sale at onlyghostsinthebuilding.com. There's some really cute stuff, including kids' clothes. Go check that out. Thank you so much. We will see you soon.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.